I don't know if I should be flattered or kind of, not insulted, but a similar word, of being called a pioneer. It has a certain implication. Despite of having the gray hair and all that, I was in actuality what I would call the second generation of information scientist. I came into the field in 1962, while most of what I would really call pioneers started working from the end of the 50s up to the 60s. I was very, very fortunate that very early in my career I got to know a lot of true pioneers. You know, this is like a second generation Mayfield landers and so on, but I got to know them and appreciate very much their contribution and their originality and their creativity and their rambunctiousness and all that kind of stuff. Well, you asked me what I would consider my contribution. Let me start with telling how I got to my contribution, and that may explain things. My earliest involvement in information science was information retrieval. And I just graduated from the School of Library and Information Science from Western Reserve with immediate specialization in information science. I started working at the research arm of that school called Center for Documentation and Communication Research. At that center, among others, there was developed a information retrieval systems for the American Society for Metals in metallurgy. And it turned out that was, at the time I didn't pay any attention, but now historically, the first commercial information retrieval systems. People actually paid to be searching that system. So, and the center operated that, developed it and operated it for the American Society for Metals, and eventually delivered it to there. But while it was at the center, I ended up doing various works, but I ended up doing question analysis in search strategy. People used to call questions in, we used to call them back, do analysis, and at that time there was no interactive online searching, but we wrote what we called a program which searched the computer. And something started happening that is not supposed to happen, and that was very, very troublesome. When we started retrieving things from the computer, it was quite evident that we were also getting a lot of unwanted answers. At that time, we called them false drops. In other words, precision was not exactly 100%. And that's not supposed to happen because the computers operate, perfectly, and these systems were elaborate and so on. And then eventually what we did, actually, we had people, which we call later on little green people. We retrieved a bunch of documents for a metallurgical question, and then some of the little green people, I was once in a while one of them, went through all the documents, threw out which was evidently junk, and then we delivered the material to the users. And then we started experiments with trying to improve the search strategy and all that. So it became obvious that the question of relevance is a issue there, that we are retrieving non-relevant answers. So after a while, we started asking a more basic question, not how to improve a search strategy or a tactic or the system itself, but the very basic question, what in the world are we talking when we talk relevance? So that intrigued me and intrigued a number of my colleagues, and we did a number of experiments. I'll describe one experiment that was never published, and that's the anecdote that you also might ask me about, so I'm weaving it in. And for obvious reasons, we never published it. We had a bunch of answers retrieved, a whole set, whatever it was, the number, for a question, metallurgical question. And then we had one of the little green people doing the partitioning. This is relevant, this goes to the user, and this stays. So the experiment was that we took those that are not relevant and gave the same question to another one of those little green people, maybe me, I can't remember who it was, and asked him, judge for relevance. So here it goes. Some of them were relevant, the others were not relevant. Then we gave the non-relevant, to somebody else. This is relevant, this is not relevant. We came to 2 documents, and one was relevant, one was not. Then the question obviously arose, what in the world is relevant? We did a number of experiments. I participated in the experiments with Alan Rees and Doug Schultz at Western Reserve University, where we got a huge grant, for that time, a huge grant from National Science Foundation to do experimentation. And Carlos Quadra and Bob Cadder from System Development Corporation in California got a similar grant. So there were 2 huge grants on both ends of the country. And we cooperated very much and did a lot of experiments on relevance judgments and tried to develop models and so on. That was around 1967. At the same time, I was enrolled in the PhD program at Western Reserve University, and I was studying and doing experiments and sometimes doing the searching and all that kind of stuff. So this whole notion of relevance intrigued me, and I ended up studying relevance as a topic for my research. So I would say that my work with relevance, which proceeded from the late 60s up to now, almost in various stages, I abandoned it for about 10 years, came back, and so on.